Guys, I love this episode so much and I can't wait for you to listen. When you get to the end, you're going to be able to tell by the end, we're like, oh my gosh, let's be best friends. Dr. Elizabeth Rogers is freaking awesome. Okay, so here's her background. You can kind of tell from her life trajectory that she has always just wanted to help people feel better. So she started out in her education getting a bachelor's in psychology, and then she went on to get a master's in public health, and then her doctorate in epidemiology, which she'll explain a little better in the episode. But in a nutshell, epidemiology is finding out what is the root cause, which I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for the love of God. A doctor that wants to know the root cause. Sorry, no offense to the doctors out there, but there are a lot in the Western medicine world that are not looking at root cause. They're just slapping medicines on stuff. And she's the polar opposite of that. She, after, her career in traditional Western medicine as a doctor, she has now started her own holistic healing practice where she combines her Western medicine education as a doctor with more natural, energetic, and spiritual components to get true healing. You gotta have them. And you know what's so cool about Dr. Rogers is you'll be able to tell as you listen to this episode, she freaking cares. She cares. She listens to people. She actually wants to know what's going on with them so she can help them feel better. I resonate with her so much. You can tell just like her soul, her essence is, I just want to help people feel better. And so she's sharing a lot of those ways that she does that in this episode. And she also shares her own crazy experience of having to go through that herself, like from the bottom up. So cool. She is like a living, breathing example of what she's teaching. I hope you guys I kind of hope you watch on YouTube on this one because like just her energy is so beautiful, but audio is awesome as well. Make sure you can watch all these episodes on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Coach Tara Garrison. And then of course on all the audio outlets, but you can find Dr. Rogers. We'll put it at the end of the episode and in all the show notes, but you can find her on her website, Healthy Transformations with Heart. And she's also on Instagram. It's at Healthy Transformations_Heart. All right. Let's jump into some real healing with Dr. Elizabeth Rogers. So I want to tell you guys about one of my favorite finds in the health industry in the last few years. It's something I use with all my clients, and that has been extremely impacting on me as well. And that's the upgraded formulas, hair mineral tests, their consults, and their nanoparticle size minerals. So I started on this path because I was taking a high quality magnesium. And when I tested, I found out that I was extremely deficient in magnesium. And once I started using their nanoparticle size magnesium, my levels went right up. And what I experienced was incredible. I started getting more REM sleep. I realized I hadn't been dreaming in years, started dreaming again, and also noticed that I didn't think I had anxiety until I got my magnesium back up and noticed that I was experiencing quite a lot of anxiety, and that went away. And I was able to enter back into a place of calm and peace. And it was just incredible. And so since then, I've been using it with all of my clients, and it's so easy. All you have to do, they'll mail you out a little envelope and you just put some hair in it and mail it back into their lab. And then you do a consult with them over the phone, and they'll tell you all about your ratios, what's high and what's low, because you can't know this unless you test. There's no way to know. And you can't just crapshoot minerals. You have to make sure that your ratios are on point. So they will tell you exactly what you need more of, exactly what you need less of to get those ratios on point so you can have optimized brain health and hormones and sleep and metabolism. So they're also giving you 10% off for being an Inside Out Health listener. So that code is just Inside Out. So go to upgradedformulas.com and just enter Inside Out at checkout, and you'll get 10% off their consults, the hair tests, and any products that you may need to get your ratios right. So yeah, take advantage of it, guys. It's something I use with every single one of my clients. It's been wildly impacting, and I'm happy to be able to extend that discount on to you guys too, as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Hey guys, before we get into the episode, I wanted to take a moment to tell you about Higher Coaching. This is my coaching system, and I get a lot of questions because it's not just training and nutrition. We do that. I love training and nutrition, obviously, but we also do more. We do personal development, and the way that's delivered is a 90-day personal development program that you go through with me when you work with me. So it's a video course with questions for you to deep dive in yourself for the first 90 days of working with me. Now, that comes as part of a morning routine. I am really big on the morning routine, and you can ask any of my clients, I will push you on that because it's life-changing. So we start with meditation, and then we do gratitude, and then that personal development program. That's our deep dive psychologically. And after the 90 days, you go to the next level. You start doing what I'm doing currently, and it's a lot of strategic goal setting, and it's really, really, honestly,
miraculous what's happening, not only in my life, but in my clients' lives. Like, it brings me to tears when I get on calls with them. I'm like, do you see yourself? Like, do you see what you're doing? That is so cool. So anyway, that is, for me, the bread and butter of my coaching. I love it so much. Also, though, in regards to your body, I also like to go deep dive and see what might be holding you back. So that's where all the biohacking side comes in. We do a physiological deep dive as well. So we do blood testing, hair mineral testing, DNA testing, body composition, aura ring, so your heart rate variability, your sleep cycles. Do you have any deficiencies? Do you have issues with sleep you didn't even know about? Let's find out, So that's how I approach things in Hire. There's more. We do prizes every month, Nikes, Lulus, all of my favorite products and foods to keep you motivated, to keep those habits up. We do 3 Zoom calls a week, so you get support. We have a private Facebook group. We're all vibing and cheering each other along the way. We get raw and real and honest. And it's just, it's like, I created my life, and I created my life the way I like, and I like to deep dive with a bunch of bad A people that really want to optimize their lives. And it's an honor for me to serve them in that. So I just thought I would tell you about it, because I don't know if I talk about it quite enough. So if you're looking for that, if you're like wanting the next level in your body and also in your life, truly, that's what we're doing. So seeking bad A's to join Hire. I do have some spots open. It is limited. I can only handle so many clients at a time. But if you would like to find out if it's a good fit for you, you can go to my website, taragarrison.com, and you can request a call, and we can see if it's a great fit for you. And I just wanted to tell you guys about Hire so you could get a little glimpse into what I'm doing on the daily. And if you're looking for something a little more self-guided, I do have my Keto In and Out program on my website. So you can either do a small taste and try it for 8 weeks, or you can go a full year. That baby is comprehensive. There is a video of every recipe, video of every exercise. There's a 60-day course teaching you how to do keto, or 30 days of keto, and then 30 days of bringing back the carbs, FAQ video library, Facebook group, like all of that. So if you're more of like the self-guided person and you just want stuff planned for you, that is also an option on my website. It's taragarrison.com. I'll link it all in the show notes. And all right, we'll go ahead and get into our episode.
All right. So Dr. Rogers, I'm so excited I want to skip ahead to the spiritual chapter, but I also love science. And I know obviously from your life trajectory, you also love the blending of the science and spiritual together, because that's really, to me, it's like two witnesses, right? Like if it makes sense in spirituality and if it makes sense in science, like now we're on to something, And so let's start though. Let's start with your medical training. Now I know that you got your bachelor's in psychology, which is super cool, which really prepared you for the work that you're doing now, and then went out into public health, but then you became medically trained as an epidemiologist. And I was wondering if you could just explain what that is for people who might not know.
Absolutely, Tara. And it's such a good question. I think because don't you think too, now, even in the midst of a global pandemic, and now we hear the word epidemiologist more, but I don't think anyone in the public front is actually explaining like what that means.
We're like, we know.
And this will make you and everybody laugh that's listening. Usually, at least up until this point, before the pandemic started, my dad actually got me a sweatshirt one year for Christmas that said, I'm an epidemiologist. I solve problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. Because people would always say, oh, what kind of doctor are you? And I'd say, oh, I'm an epidemiologist. And I'd feel so bad because they'd either go one of two ways. They'd think for a second, they'd say, oh, you're a skin doctor. And I get that because they're thinking, epidermis. And I think
right.
Connections coming. Or they'd look at me and I could tell they're thinking like, I don't even know where to go with that.
Okay, so now we can educate the audience so that doesn't happen to you.
So, it's interesting what if you actually, and I used to co-teach this class in graduate school, but if you looked up in any type of textbook or dictionary, what the definition of epidemiology is. So depending on the reference, that you are looking at, it would say something like, epidemiology is the study of the frequency, distribution, and determinants or causes of any health issue or outcome, and the application of that study to the control of those health outcomes, issues, or diseases, with the ultimate goal being the improvement of the health of the entire population or groups of people.
Very cool.
Yeah. So the way I always explain it in simple terms is, what I do as an epidemiologist is I study and determine the patterns and causes of health issues. So, just like any other doctor or field, we all have specialties. Some epidemiologists specialize in the environment. So they would study things like air pollution, air quality, safety, lots of other topics like that. Some of us are infectious disease specialists. So these are going to be my colleagues really on the forefront of the pandemic. People in my profession specialize in injury prevention and control, cancer, chronic diseases, and really anything across the board. There are veterinary epidemiologists. So we specialize in pretty much anything out there that a medical doctor would also specialize in. And my specific areas of expertise are chronic diseases, disability, and aging, and in particular, healthy aging. So I was very much an expert at longevity, right? What are the factors that allow us to live long and healthy and high quality of life?
Yeah.
So I'm really literally clinically trained to identify, understand, and analyze the root causes of symptoms and health issues. And while I know and believe that that is extremely important from a global perspective, and that is traditionally where epidemiology lives, what I am doing now is merging it down to the individual level in my current practice. And at this point in time, I'm not aware of any other holistic health coach and experts who apply epidemiology and this background to the individual singular level to allow us to really get down to the root causes of why we feel the way we feel. So I'm really passionate about it.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, do you want to be best friends? I want to talk to you for like days, weeks, months. I have so many questions. That's awesome. That's so exciting. I'm like, it's funny. I almost went on a little social media rampage rant and I was like, no, control yourself. But I just recently in 2 days in a row had two different people tell me that their doctors put them on basically amphetamines to help them lose weight. And I was like livid, honestly, like livid. And I was like, okay, this is not okay. I'm not over here being like, hey, you know what? I kind of know how the knee joint connects. Let me get in there. Let me cut you open and just start messing around. Cause I feel like I could help with that. And I'm like, man, like, I'm like, how about we ask why you're having a hard time losing weight instead of here's a pill for that. Like they're not even asking why. And these people have so much emotional trauma and like low neurotransmitters and all like horrible gut health and all these things that are making it extremely difficult for them to lose weight. But I'm like, what medical field is a lot of it is not asking why. Like, I'm like, how can you be working with people day in and day out and see them coming into your practice and having, and not kinda at the end of the day, when you go home, be like, why is that happening? Like, and your field is why. That's what you're doing is why.
And Tara, I will tell you literally, like you're like inflame inside of me right now, because literally word for word, everything you just said is why I had to walk away from that field, because I could not continue to stand by and keep my mouth shut while I watched us continue to not ask the right questions. And then I fell victim along my own healing journey to that system and lived the experience that my patients and clients now live. And that just changed everything.
Wow. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
No, of course not. And I know you'll love and empathize with this story. And I know so many of our beautiful listeners will too, because I think that as women, especially, we all have lived this journey in some way, shape, or form. But so I was working on my doctorate. I was, very much at that point in my career, Tara. I've known since I was 3 years old that I came into this lifetime to help others heal. So I knew my purpose. But I just thought that I was going to blindly follow that in a very traditional way.
Right.
So that was my track. At that point in time, I was not even thinking about this practice. This was not even it wasn't even a figment of my imagination yet. So I was working on my doctorate, very traditional, very much believed in that belief system wholeheartedly with all my heart and soul, and preached it, And then I was getting ready for class one morning and I collapsed on my bathroom floor and I went into convulsions, and I had never experienced that kind of pain in my life. It's a long story, but I'll give you the Cliff's Notes version for us. My brother had to literally pick me up off the floor and run with me in his arms to the car to take me to the emergency room. Eventually I was admitted because I had massive kidney stones at the age of 23. So super rare for a girl like me. But do you know, Tara, that from the very beginning, they felt the need to constantly point out to me that, boy, this is rare. Boy, girls, like, it's not only are you a woman, but you're a young woman. And we don't see this happen in girls like you, but nobody was asking why.
Right.
So I ended up having surgery that week with a surgeon who said to me, his very last words were, "You should know how lucky you are because you're going to make me late for my tea time today." And I literally remember thinking to myself, I'm going to die in here. And then I woke up and he had said to my parents, I blasted your kidney stones. You're going to pass them within 72 hours and you're going to go home feeling like $1 million. Well, 72 hours later, and then 10 days later, I was still in the hospital, getting worse, not better. And he was refusing to come and see me. I ended up coming within hours of my own death because my parents had to file a grievance with the hospital, get a new physician and surgeon on my case who discovered that I'd actually been bleeding internally since my surgery. I was going into septic shock. And by the time he found me, he said I was within hours of death. He actually had me say goodbye to everybody. He told my parents, there's probably nothing we're going to be able to do, but I'm going to give it a shot. But you need to be prepared. So I said goodbye to everybody.
Oh my gosh.
Literally, Tara, I will tell you this part of the story because it's spiritual and I know this will mean something to you. And I've never told this story in a public way, but on the way to that emergency surgery, I was outside the elevators and, and when you're dying, I mean, I know you and anyone listening knows what chronic pain feels like. So imagine, when you're dying, if anyone out there is listening, has experienced something like that. I mean, you don't want anyone looking at you. You don't want to be seen. You just want to be alone. I just remember laying there and just gripping my bed sheets with all my might. And there was a woman probably about 20 feet away from me staring at me. And to this day, I'll never forget because I was mad at her because I didn't want her looking at me. And I remember thinking, why is this lady staring at me? Please don't look at me. I don't want people looking at me like this. Well, no sooner am I thinking that she's literally by my side. And she says to the transport team, can I give her something? Now, keep in mind, I'm gripping the bed sheets. I never opened my hands. All she did was put her hands on mine and laid and come down toward my face. And she said, I felt this calming presence go over me. And she just said, I just need you to know that everything's going to be okay. And I opened up my hands and there was an angel pin inside of my hand. Ooh. And I looked up to say thank you. And she was literally gone. Now I had been on so many drugs. So I honestly thought I hallucinated this whole thing. So I look up at the transport team and said, did you see that? And they nodded their heads and kind of like this weird, like I knew they'd seen something like I'd seen that it was hard to believe. And I knew that this was something divine. So I asked, can they please bring the angel pin into surgery with me? And here I am talking to you. So I think we all know what happened, but literally against the odds, I'm a 1 in a million shot. I am here to tell my story. And the reason I am, Tara, is because I came here to do something different.
Oh yeah.
I was put here and I got to come out of that situation because I have a purpose to fulfill. And now I know with every moment of my life that I put one foot in front of the other toward that purpose. But that was actually the beginning of my journey, Tara. After that, I had over half a dozen surgeries. Then I had started accumulating every chronic issue and illness you could possibly imagine, right? So I started getting things, I was dealing with anxiety, PTSD, depression, hormonal imbalances, IBS, all kinds of gut issues, chronic constipation, bloating, chronic migraines, horrible acne everywhere all over my body. I mean, you name it, I was like a walking, talking hot mess. And of course, I started going around the traditional field, from specialist to specialist, and every single one of them, all they wanted to do was give me another prescription and another prescription and another prescription. Yeah. And so when I started asking my traditional doctors questions, why are my hormones out of balance? You're telling me I have inflammatory bowel disease. Why do I have inflammation in my gut? Do you know what they would say to me? First of all, they didn't like me asking questions. So the person that didn't like it the most said to me, she said, can we cure IBD? And now at this point, she'd given me a prescription med. She said, can we cure IBD? No, we can't, Elizabeth. But you know what? Can we manage it? Yes. So are you always going to feel good? No. But you know what? You're just going to have to manage it. And I remember walking out thinking in my head, I want to say curse words, even just
Me too. I feel like venom coming in my mouth.
Yes, I was like salivating with I wanted flame to bust out of my ears and my nose, my nostrils and my mouth. I felt like I was seeing red.
Seriously.
I remember going out to my car and thinking, nobody gets to tell me or any patient that we just have to manage it, that this is as good as it's ever going to get. Are you kidding me? So at that point, I felt that traditional medicine was completely refusing to dig any deeper with me. So I walked away and went into the alternative health realm, and I started seeing naturopaths, functional med docs, acupuncturists, chiropractors, Ayurvedic docs, you name it. I've been there and done it. And while I got more pieces of the puzzle, Tara, which was really important, every time I worked with someone new, every time I did another program, every time I did another thing, I felt like something was still missing. And I felt like we still weren't digging deep enough. So I kept going to all these practitioners, right? Because I'm thinking the one I'm looking for, she's out there or he's out there. And I am going to not give up till I find her, because I know she's out there. I just wanted, you know what I wanted? I wanted somebody to listen. I wanted somebody to give me time. Time where I felt like they actually wanted to be there with me and give me that time. Not like I felt like the other half of them was not present and paying attention to how much time they could give me so they could get out the door to the next patient.
Right.
I wanted someone to put the pieces of my puzzle together with me, to connect the dots and help me understand underneath all this stuff I'm dealing with, what's underneath all of this junk, because I know there is something there. And you know what? I never found her, because one day I woke up in my bathtub. I was like on meds, trying to manage my gut issues. I felt like the worst I'd ever felt in years, even though I was quote unquote successfully managing my issues. And I looked in the mirror and I kind of had one of those moments, out of body moments. And I just heard this voice and it was like, if not you, then who? Don't you see that you're who you're looking for?
Yeah.
And I realized that, honestly, at that point, Tara, I realized that I was my only hope. And I thought, either this is going to be my life or I'm going to save my own life, because I'm pretty sure that now I think that this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to help people. I'm meant to rescue people from this system. I'm tired of watching them take our power away from all of us. So that's what I did. I started at that point putting the pieces of my own puzzle together, creating what it ultimately became now the backbone of my practice, my holistic approach. But I just thought, we don't dig deep enough, Tara. While naturopaths and some of those docs get us closer and we start to talk about maybe some of the underlying toxins and pathogens that might be driving our conditions on the surface, there was still this other missing piece, right? I think you and I and our listeners know that there's a spiritual, energetic component. I mean, think about that equation, E equals MC squared, right? What does M stand for? The material, the physical, right? But what is the other side of that equation? It's E. What is E? It's energy. So it's funny how in traditional medicine, we literally only focus on that one side of the equation when there's this whole other half that we seriously turn a blind eye to.
Wow.
And I just started thinking, I think that true, deep, holistic healing, I don't think it's a one and done anything. I don't think it's a program of any type, whether it's natural or pharmaceutical. I think that it's a journey, and I think that it's a lifestyle, and I think it's a way of living. And so that's what I did. I just walked away and I started building this all, and here I am.
So where did your energy healing journey take you? Where did,
Oh my gosh.
Don't leave us hanging. What happened?
I'm sure you want to nerd out with me about this.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So this is so awesome. Well, I honestly, even in my very traditional phase of my journey, when I was in, getting my psychology degree, at that point, I was thinking about, do I go the public health street, or I was actually being recruited into clinical psychology grad school. So I was so super traditional. But even along that way, ever since I was little, I've always really been into spiritual stuff. I've always loved, when I was little, my best friend and I used to play with the Ouija board, tarot cards, I'd play with runes. I was always definitely open to and fascinated by that realm. And what's funny, Tara, is I can actually remember when I was, not joking, you're probably about 12 years old. I knew I wanted to be a doctor and I was so serious about it, And I can remember even then saying to myself and telling my mom this and saying that I know that if I'm going to be a great doctor and really help people, that I really believed that to be a good doctor, you have to know, believe, and be willing to acknowledge and accept that there are always going to be things that seem beyond human explanation that also have everything to do with this. And that's just what I believe. I believe there are always
Definitely.
things that seem immeasurable to hard science, right? That seem beyond human
Yes.
explanation. Because if we can't see it, hear it, feel it, touch it, smell it, taste it with our human eyes, especially people who are very much born and raised by traditional philosophies,
Right.
don't want to believe that that could
Right.
possibly be real. But I have lived it. The
Oh
reason
yeah.
I'm here right now has nothing to do with traditional medicine and science. The reason I'm here not on any medications and talking to you with skin totally clear, no digestive issues, don't have any mental or emotional health problems, it's not because prescriptions got me there. It's not because any program got me there. It's because I learned to address all of the factors that impact our health and ability to heal every day. And you and I both know that that's not just from what's going on in our external environment.
Nope. Yeah, I love this so much because I noticed, we're on Instagram right before we got on, you had tagged me that you were, doing your
Yeah.
meditation, your morning, routine. And
That. And actually, right before we met, I did some Palo Santo and just got some good vibes
amazing.
going in here for us. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, it's funny you explain that so well. Is so often people want to reject this and they only want to trust like Western medicine, and I'm like, okay, just do some simple Google researching then on like almost any health issue. I guarantee you will find at some point we don't really understand, we don't really know why. I'm like, we don't even know what makes our heart beat for our whole lives. We don't even know what makes women go into labor really. Like we don't need all of these these amphetamines that I told you that these doctors are putting these people on. I'm looking at it and they're like, we don't really know how it works. Like, no. So if you want to just completely rely on Western medicine, just know that you're relying also kind of on something that it actually doesn't have basis all over the
No, it
place.
doesn't.
So it's like you have to at some point accept that this is how, so mother nature, you can see a lot, if anybody's watching on YouTube, a lot of my, like in my house, a lot of things have to
Oh,
do with
gorgeous.
nature. And I
Oh,
love nature because
me
nature
too.
is the master teacher. And there's so much we don't know about it, but we can try to follow some of those patterns. And you know what I mean? And so what would happen in nature? If we were out in nature, we would be in meditation all the time. We wouldn't have TV and phones and all these things to distract us. We would just be sitting there looking at a freaking plant. We would be sitting there just walking and breathing,
Yeah.
And so anyway, I'm so with you on the energetic realm. I believe that's why I live a life of like true happiness is the way I would describe it, because that is my anchor for it. That is where it all comes from. That's the connection, the soul, So yeah.
So I have to tell you and our listeners about a place that I have a feeling you're all going to love. And this is
Ooh.
actually where I ended up going and really discovering myself and a lot of the things that became my spiritual gifts. Because now I'm a master. I'm trained at the master's level for medical intuition. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I do hands-on and remote spiritual healing. And I always wondered, like, where do you go, right, to learn that kind of stuff?
Right.
About 8 years ago. Now, there's a place in the United States called Lilydale, and it's in New York, upstate New York, in a little county called Chautauqua. Very beautiful. Now, I'd always known about Lilydale. It's a little tiny spiritualist community, but it's lots of mediums live there. Very like this. It's sort of like I would parallel it to, a lot of people know that Sedona, Arizona is like very well known to be a natural energy vortex.
Yeah.
Well, so is Lilydale, New York.
I'm going.
I literally, Sarah, you'll freak out. Like I literally woke up one day 7 years ago, about a week before the 4th of July, and had this, like, I've never had this happen to me before in my life, but I woke up and I felt like I have to get in the car and go to Lilydale right now. I don't even know. It was like this overwhelming feeling. I couldn't ignore it. So I seriously packed a suitcase, got in the car and went. And that really began my spiritual journey. And I just discovered you can take classes there. So if anybody, for you or anyone listening, go check out their website, because, one kind of upside to the pandemic is that they used to be very old school and you had to physically go there if you wanted to train or do classes, but now you can do all their stuff online and remotely. So
Oh, wow.
definitely,
Thank you for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to love it. I just feel called to tell you. Yeah.
I'll just have to like I don't know, back that up, I guess, with I recently, like, I had this big like download. It was like, you are going to Sedona, Arizona, and you're going by yourself. Like, you're going down there and you're going to do some energy healing there. And I was like, wait, but this doesn't even make any sense. Like, I don't even like why I'm just going to like freaking just go, like, just like walk around.
I was kind of even driving there, like, what am I doing? I'm not sure, but I'm going to just follow my intuition.
Yeah, for me, it's like I don't. Well, I guess I do. I was gonna say I don't really get caught up on the numbers thing, but I guess I do because the zeros, ones, and twos are just like insane for me. And I went to book the flight for Sedona, and it was all $222. I'm like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. I was like, okay, fine, I'm going. And I ended up going on like 10, 20, 20, 20, and then like having my big experience there on 10, 22, 20, 20. So anyway, and then I went to Tulum recently. So just real quick, the energy vortex thing. I didn't even know. I went to Tulum because it was my friend's birthday and she wanted to go to Tulum.
I did all my yoga teacher training there. Isn't it?
Oh, it's so powerful. I had this spiritual feeling come in and it was like, Tara, you are not going to be able to understand in your conscious mind why you need to go to Tulum, but you need to go. And like, it's important for you to be in that energy. And I was like, okay. And I still don't know for sure, but I do know I made some major life transformation choices right after I came back. And so did both of my friends. So I'm such a believer. I just had to say that real quick to back up what you're saying, because I have had some massive changes happen to me from being in certain areas. I completely 100% believe in it. And it's awesome that they also have like resources to teach you some of those things.
Isn't it awesome? So you've lived that experience. Like, so, like there are we can, receive benefits even for healing from places and spaces,
Yep. Okay. So people listening, like, I know they're going to want to hear like, oh my gosh, like, where do I start? So I'm just curious, like in your practice now where you're doing the holistic healing approach, which your practice, it is called Healthy Transformations with Heart.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And real quick, just so I'm just curious, like, do you do remote consults with like anybody can work with you?
Yes. So that's a great question because I actually my practice was not online until last year during the pandemic. And I really pivoted it because like, now about me, especially seeing the stuff I've done in my career, that my biggest thing is that I just want to be able to help as many people as possible in the most genuine way possible. So I just realized, I thought, what, it's time. I have to help, I have to pivot to go online. So I have clients now in the UK. I have a client in Denmark. So I've got clients all over the world, literally.
Well, I'm glad that the pandemic brought that. So now more people can work with you. Cause I 100% like, I see you. I'm like, I feel you. I know you're like, I'm going to freaking help people. By the way, you need to know Dr. Gary Forsman. He was also on my podcast. You guys are like the same. He's like a shaman, Reiki healer.
I have to connect with him some way.
But he's like also a double board certified internal medicine doctor. And he's just like wonderful. Yeah. Anyway, I got to get you on Primal. I'm going to connect you with Elruss. You got to get on Primal.
Isn't it nice to know that there are like-minded, there's I feel a growing number of practitioners that come, especially from the traditional realm like us, that are really hoping to help people get to experience the embodiment of really, I think what we should be offering people is a true union of, the merging of the very best of Western medicine and science with the true, energetic, spiritual, natural, and holistic components that really cultivate true healing.
Yeah, absolutely. And bring happiness and peace instead of I'm on 20 pharmaceuticals that bring all these other health problems. It's like, I think I don't know, maybe I'm stepping out of my lane, but I'm like, I think if you really, truly want to help people from the bottom of your freaking heart, you can't help but go into the blending of the science and the spiritual, because you see there's so much value in both of them. And somewhat you can't have it all unless you have that heart connection. I love that you put with heart on the end of your thing.
Funny. When I actually first started my practice, I wanted to call it just heart, because that's all that I am. And it's funny, my full name's Elizabeth Ann Rogers. And so it was actually my youngest brother that pointed this out to me. He was like, because he knows I don't believe in coincidence.
Oh, wow.
It's not a coincidence that your initials literally are this middle of the word heart. And I thought, oh my goodness. But honestly, Tara, the reason I name my practice that is because what I do really is help people make a transformation. It's not, this is not, if you want to work with me, you're not coming to, we're not doing a one and done approach. This is not we're doing this so that you can go back to X, Y, and Z. It's time for you to transform so that you can have lasting, like you said, lasting health and wellness,
Yeah. Okay. I have to ask you this one question. It's maybe a little bit random, but it keeps coming at me. And it's like, so I work with a lot of people who have hypothyroidism or autoimmune issues,
Right.
Hashimoto's,
Bring them at
um,
me.
man, and hormone issues and, histamine reactions and like all of this. Right. And I'm like often find myself in meditation, like, what, like, why, what is going on? Like, what is causing this to start? And I know they're all inflamed. That's one thing I get, and I'm curious because especially also with like endometriosis and a lot of these like reproductive issues, I've just personally noticed that a lot of those conditions are also usually matched with a lot of emotional trauma and stress. And I was curious your thoughts on like trauma and chronic emotional stress in regards to inflammation in the body.
Oh my gosh, I love this question. And I'm so glad you asked it because you're right. And Tara, I too make this observation all the time. I can't tell you, I would say a majority of women in my practice are dealing with one or most often more of the issues that you literally just went through and
Yeah.
mentioned. And right in traditional medicine, hormones and inflammation are two of the most common culprits that we're told, oh, it's hormones, up, it's inflammation, but it's not just that. And I will tell you what is really going on underneath the surface of a lot of these
Mhm.
issues is adrenal fatigue, and that is at the hands of chronic stress. So I can even explain how
Yeah.
that all happens. So, and I think this is so helpful too for women, our women listeners, Tara, because I will tell you, ladies, so a former part of my career, I am an expert in what's called subclinical cardiovascular diseases. So our ability to start to actually detect them before they're manifesting clinically, and you're
Mm,
actually feeling, symptoms of a heart attack or heart pains or whatever.
okay.
So, it's always for me about what's as far deep as I can get. Now, what I've really discovered in my practice is at the root of all of this is adrenal fatigue, and that is due to chronic stress. And like I was saying, back to women in particular have a tendency to take on stress in a much different way than compared with men. We tend to really embody it. We tend to
Mhm.
bring it in emotionally, and where women in particular, believe it or not, actually take on a lot of the burden of our stress is on our left adrenal gland, which sits right
Mm.
on top of our left kidney. So when I do medical intuitive sessions with my clients, I often see women with literally, Tara, I'm not kidding you, radiating left adrenal glands because they are so overburdened that they just can't take a break. So this is kind of, I'll walk you and our listeners through the cycle of what's kind of the pathway of what's going on. So ladies, imagine, we all deal with chronic stress, and I think this is one of the biggest players in our lack of ability to manage chronic illness appropriately in traditional medicine because we do not address this because right we
Mm.
shove people out the door. If a woman comes to us in a clinical practice setting and she's telling me about her physical issues, but then she also starts to say, well, I've also been depressed, I've also been feeling anxious, here's what we're trained to do. We're trained to say, well, that's really good to know, but you know what, I got to go on to the next patient. Here's a script for you to go talk to a counselor or a psychologist. Why don't you go consult with them? I don't want to put your pieces of your puzzle together. Please don't ask me to attach your mental and your physical health, because God forbid we do that. I would prefer to completely dismantle the human body. But I feel like that's what we
So
do.
true.
But honestly, and it's no offense to traditional providers, but this really is just honestly the approach. And when I worked in the clinical traditional practice, I got in trouble almost on a daily basis because my boss told me I was spending too much time with my patients.
I can only imagine.
And
Good for
what
you.
I did every single day, continued to do do it my way, because I knew that if there was a patient crying in my office and she just lost her cat today, and she needed some support, then I was going to give her that for as long as she needed it. and I didn't care what they said. But back to chronic stress. So, right, we're all stressed out. And what happens, Tara, is, as you know, we have, right, two branches of our autonomic nervous system, our sympathetic, which is that fight or flight. And that's what gets activated when our adrenals are worked and we're stressed out. Then we have that parasympathetic nervous system. That's the other branch that's calming and helps bring us back down again. Well, what I see happening in people with chronic stress is that they're literally stuck in fight or flight mode. And it's like, I feel like we have raised a society of women who we have literally allowed our parasympathetic nervous system to become completely atrophied. Like a muscle atrophy, like it's just like a limb, like it doesn't even know what to do. It doesn't know how to work anymore because we don't know, we're not taught how to nurture it.
Yeah. It's looked down upon.
It is.
It's
better
being lazy.
Go. Yeah. Even think about, I even think when I brought my business online, and it actually bothered me because I'd see, and I still see, so many coaches like, and think people posting like, it's all about the grind. It's all about the grind, the grind. If you're not working, if you're not sleeping 3 hours and working all night, then you're not going to be successful. Right. And you know what? I call bullshit on all of that because that is just not true. It is absolutely not true. And I think it's sad that that's so ingrained in us now. I think especially women, we feel called to just overgive ourselves. We're moms, we're partners, we're business owners, we're coaches. We do so many things that it just feels like selfish, right? To take care of ourselves. But in this, what's going on when people are chronically stressed, Tara, is that adrenal gland, right? It's producing chemicals like adrenaline. And while adrenaline is actually really helpful, right? Because every time we get stressed out, believe it or not, it's thanks to the production of those chemicals that literally every time we get stressed, we don't have a mini stroke or some sort of cardiac event. So they're life-saving chemicals, but when they're overproduced, that adrenaline actually becomes toxic and corrosive to our system.
Yeah.
And so I see that then starting to be what wears on hormone issues. I see this, what starts to lead to chronic inflammation, because that pattern really weakens and impairs your immune system. And now with a woman's immune system down, and our immune systems already go out of whack because we're women who go through cycles and go through phases of life like that are very different compared with men. Now you allow things to happen like, here's an example. Let's say you had some thyroid issues. Okay, I have a client with thyroid issues right now, so I'm going to kind of use that. I'm going to use a similar story as an example. So let's say she's got thyroid issues. Now she's got fatigue on top of that, and her doctor's telling her she's just mom tired. Now they slapped on some medications, and now she's sleeping too much. So now they've given her more medication so that she could try to stay awake during the day. So now she's got this whole host of issues, and she believes she needs to be on these medications to manage the stress and these issues, when really what's going on is that because her immune system's weakened and that adrenaline and that sympathetic nervous system are so active, then what happens is it allows our immune system to, it's like a moment of vulnerability for toxins and pathogens that live in our body, right? And then all of a sudden they can start to do things like attack our vagus nerve and inflame it. Right. So some of those things that just live in our bodies all the time and otherwise are dormant and don't really bother us, when we put our bodies in a system of being chronically and heightened at a stress level all the time, our immune systems start to react. And that's why, we have all these women dealing with issues that they can't seem to come back down from, we have these heightened emotions and we're all up here and we just keep slapping medications on it rather than teaching women did you ever try some just breathing techniques or, some of these other more holistic modalities? Maybe you just kind of need to get grounded. Maybe it's actually that you're deficient in B12 and we just need to supplement your body with some of the things it's lacking to help get you all balanced back out again. Maybe it is just as simple, Tara, as giving our body the right nutrients in the form of healthy snacks to feed our adrenal glands, because it is and can be that simple. We don't teach people those, really simple things.
Oh man, thank you so much for describing that. I lived that for a minute. I was going through like major life trauma and I was grinding, baby. I was grinding. I was in freaking survival mode, honestly. And I was getting sick all the time. And then I got my minerals checked and my magnesium was in the shitter. Like it was so low. And I was like, it was a gift to me because I actually went and did ayahuasca in Costa Rica, like
Oh,
right after that. And it was like this, like, freaking nervous system reset for me. Like it helped me see everything that I needed to see. I literally, for 3 of the 4 ceremonies, I slept. That's what Mother Ayahuasca did for me. She like was like, "You need sleep, girlfriend." So people next to me getting their ass kicked, they're like freaking crying and puking, and I'm like waking up like, "Oh shoot, I missed it," you know. And I really just think that's what the medicine knew I needed. It was like, you need sleep, you need repair, you know. Yeah, I'm very open about my love for plant medicines. I'm such a
I
incredible,
love plant
huge
medicines too. You
believer.
would sometime I have to connect you with my wonderful friends and colleagues, Gina and Elizabeth, who have a podcast called The Vine, but they're all
Oh,
about plant medicine. And like they started this thing called the Plant Media Project. And
oh, very cool.
anyway,
Yeah.
we all of us have to connect sometime and
Okay,
do
yeah. Yeah,
together.
I would love that. Thank you. Yeah, and it's now, you know, I definitely am tend to be more of the grind mode, right? Definitely. I get in those modes easily. I love that mode. It's very addicting. It feels good, right? It's
Me
that
too.
adrenaline rush is very addicting. But I intentionally offset it. Luckily, I have a lake right by my house, so I intentionally offset it as much as possible. Walk around that lake with no incoming, like maybe music if I intuitively feel like meditation music, you know, but most of the time just freaking silence with no intention. I'm not trying to solve any problems. I'm not trying to get any downloads. I just want just silence, you know? And that, I think for me, like that's been key for maintaining being able to keep that balance. And I'll just add real quick to back up what you were saying in training. I see this happen a lot with women. They get, especially the ones who are adrenaline prone, they tend to be the over exercisers. And so they want to lift and they want to go to the Orange Theory and then they want to run afterwards. And then they're going to go for a hike and they're going to have 3 coffees so they don't eat food. And they just keep doing that until they freaking crash and burn. And guess what? You can't even build any muscle when you're in that adrenaline cortisol state anyway. So you're not
Oh,
getting any results. You're literally spinning your wheels. You're probably going to end up getting hormone balance. It's going to make you gain more weight. And it's like, man, you know what? You can go in there and get a small, go hard, like go intense. Well, maybe not. If you have hypothyroidism, you need to stop. But if you're in a okay state right now, you know, but like 20, 30 minutes, go intense and then done. And what I do is I start breathing. I lay my butt down in the middle of the gym where everybody can see me and I don't care. And I lay there with my palms towards the sky and put my beautiful, you know, ayahuasca type meditation music on. And I breathe as big as I can into my diaphragm to activate that parasympathetic. And I try to stay there as much as I can because my tendency, my want is to be in the sympathetic all the freaking time, you know? So just sharing that, like if you are like that, which you probably are, because a lot of us are, like actively seek out the parasympathetic state, you know, like go for a walk, like give yourself that, breathe, check your breathing. Are you breathing big? You know? So anyway, just wanted to,
like, are you breathing big? Are you even present? You know, I think when we get in
yeah,
that mode, we can have a tendency to just go in autopilot. Even if
yeah,
we're like, you know, in the grind and we're super focused,
right.
you know, it really can throw us out of whack.
Totally. Thank you so much for sharing that. And the last question that I had for you was I'm just curious, like, I'm just curious where you start, you know, like, do you just listen to somebody and then you have this huge tool belt? So you just kind of know where to go from there. You just talk to them. Like, where do you start with
I
somebody?
love that question. Well, I always start by, you know, what I always tell people is that the first thing we're going to do is put the pieces of your puzzle together. So
Mm,
honestly, where I start, Tara, is just by really deeply connecting with somebody. You know, it's my goal to just really give somebody this safe, sacred space and healing space that I think is very lacking across the board in
yeah.
our traditional healing modalities. Because I want them to know right off the bat that I'm different and this is going to be different. You know, even one of my new clients yesterday, when we were in her session, she said to me, she's like, Dr. Rogers, can I just say to you, she's like, thank you for taking the time to care enough to figure this out for me. She said, but I have to tell you, and this is something I get a lot. She said, I was so hesitant. She said, now I feel bad for being hesitant to come work with you. She said, it's just that I've been to a functional med doc and I've just tried this other program. She said, she said, and even that just didn't get me. I just felt like there was still something missing. she said, and so I just thought like, gosh, should I really invest in another program? And I just said to her, I said, don't you dare be sorry. I have all the love and the patience in the world for anyone that comes and works with me, Tara, because what I know for sure is that 90% of the time, they're coming to me after they've been burned a whole lot of times. So what I really do is just start by taking time to really connect with people. I want them to be able to tell their story. I want to hear the whole story too. I don't want to just hear like little bits of it. I want to hear everything. I want to hear the good, the bad, and everywhere in between. I want to hear about your struggles. I want to hear about what you've tried and what hasn't worked. I want to hear about your frustrations with the experiences you've had and what ultimately has been disappointing about those for you, because I want to, as effectively as I can, fill all those gaps for you. So it's so important for me to have that level of connection and communication right from the beginning with people.
Totally. I love that. Thank you. It makes me, that's how I am too. I'm like, it's truly, the questions on the tests in school where it's like not enough information. So it's like the more information I have from you, like the more likely I'm going to be able to help you. So please don't hide that part about how you drink a bottle of wine every night. And then, or like, please don't hide that.
For a secret night snacker,
like I don't care. It's just more information to help me make more correlations. Like maybe you have blood sugar dysregulation issues, or maybe you have trauma from a kid around food. But let's get there. Because if you can't share, and that, I guess, that's a good message to share just in general, is like the more vulnerable you are, the more you can get helped.
It is true. And I bet you're like me too, Tara, where I notice the more space I can give somebody to feel comfortable sharing, the more they'll start. Like yesterday, one of my clients, I was we were doing her what I call her root cause analysis. So I was talking her through, here are all the root causes of your issues. Here's exactly what your puzzle looks like. Why are these issues contributing to your fat, to what you're experiencing, and how are we going to resolve them? And she was just like, I just had like all these little mini epiphanies while you were telling me the story. She was like, it just hit me. She was like, that I had this. She said, before I married my husband, she was like, I had this really bad breakup. She said, I was supposed to marry this other guy. She said, he left me. She was like, she said, she was like, and you highlighting that there may have been some trauma that brought this on. She was like, as soon as you said that, I just knew. She was like, and I had to tell you, like, that was the thing. And so see, we start to like, even in ourselves, uncover our own pieces of the puzzle where we're like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
I think I know why I'm still having this freaking health issue. And it's because I never resolved this trauma that came up in my life 20 years ago, because I never had a chance to talk about it or deal with it,
Oh man, I love look at my logo. You don't know the name of this podcast. Like the answers are inside you. The answers are inside you. And I love your moment. I thank you for sharing that beautiful visual of like just freaking looking at yourself after your bath and being like, it's you, baby. You are your healer. You are the one. You are the one you've been looking for. Like this is
true, isn't it?
Yeah.
So much of how you and I help people is we try to guide our women, our people on a journey to make them realize that this is where it's all.
It's inside that. Yeah, they're the healer. Even with training, I tell people that. I'm like, you're your best personal trainer. I'm not actually in your body. I can kind of see it from out here, but only you know if you're really feeling your glutes engage on that deadlift, So
I don't feel like I often think about this, Tara, and don't you feel like this? Because I'm sure everyone listening, I think that's such a heavy burden you and I and people, practitioners like us carry, right? Is that trust me, everyone that's listening, if Tara and I could snap our fingers and make you get the results you want so bad, we would do it, and we'd be making a fortune, right? But no, like what we don't get anybody the results that they're getting. I feel like what we do is help people, give people the chance to just get to be like the fullest, most, radiant expression of themselves, and get to really look in the mirror and see their own magic and their own power. And
exactly.
And those moments like you and I've had where we look in the mirror and you're like, it's me, like I'm the badass, like I'm gonna rock it until I freaking take my last breath.
Yeah.
What was I thinking, giving my power away?
That's
I feel
right.
like we hope we can give that back to all of you.
That's right. And I think because we've both seen the kind of the dark side, honestly, in my opinion, of there are
And we
people out
worth
there
it.
that are that like oh my gosh, I shared this before, but this one woman, like her psychologist, psychiatrist or whatever, like her method wasn't working very well. The girl, she wasn't getting and she said, "Do you see all these degrees I have behind me?"
No, she won't.
She's like, "Do you not think I know what I'm talking about?" And I was like, I wanted to be like, what's the address? What's the name of her practice again? I want to go pay her a visit. It was like the ego, the ego, it just drives me crazy because like
I
that's
take
how
it.
people with the information overload right now. That's how I'm probably the same with you. They're like, well, I read this book and I heard this doctor and I heard this podcast and I had this coach and people are like freaking like psychotically overwhelmed. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Like
It's
I'm
so true.
I'm just here to help you facilitate, ask great questions and point you in some directions. Maybe let's just check your blood sugar and make sure that's, oh, it's not. Okay, cool. All right. Why don't you test this? This is what but it's like, it's not this like Tara knows the way and I just have to be this blind follower that does whatever Tara says. Like, screw that shit because I'm so tired of it.
I
It's
know.
like,
I bet you're like me. I know that you're like me. We want you to ask us questions. We want you
yeah,
to. I know you're like me. And if someone asks me a question, and this is something I hope all of our listeners take to heart, please know if you ever go into a doctor's office, because I had a client say this to me this week. She said, "Well, my doctor said I need to take this medication. I need to take it before I see her again." And I said, "You don't need to do anything. You don't need to do anything except what you feel is right for your body."
that's
So
right.
don't you
Mm,
dare ever listen to a practitioner
mm,
who's starting to use language like that. What the
mhm.
practitioner you want to be with is the practitioner who you ask a question to. And here's the doctor I respect. The doctor who I ask a question to and who can say to me, "That's a great question, Elizabeth, and I can't answer that with confidence, but
Right.
here's what we're going to do to find the answer." Now, when my clients ask me questions I can't answer, or that I know that
Yep.
I kind of have an idea, but that it's not in my wheelhouse, that's exactly how I answer. I just say, "I can't answer that for you with confidence, but here are the steps we're going to take to get you that answer. Or here's who I want you to
100%.
talk to instead." You know, no one knows
100%.
anything. We're not all knowing. There is
Yep.
none of
Yep.
us that are practitioners of any kind are
That's
all
right.
knowing.
That's right. Yeah. I just got a new client with histamine issues. And what was I doing at freaking 10 o'clock last night? I'm researching histamine. I'm texting my colleagues, like, what do
Right,
you know
girl,
about,
that's true.
probiotics for histamines and all this stuff,
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't give you a recommendation yet. Give me a minute. I'm looking into it. But based off what I know now, like I have to ask some more questions. So yeah, it's like nobody, yeah, we have this idea as like kids that like someone knows the answer to
So
everything.
true. 100%. And that there's that one, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Oh man, you have
So
got to
true.
meet Elle Russ. She hosts my other podcast with me. It's called Kick Ass Life. She also hosts the Primal Blueprint podcast, which is a really
Oh
big
my
podcast.
gosh.
You
I
heard of
love
Elle?
it. Yeah,
And
I
she
love
had the same, she had hypothyroidism, went to a million doctors. Nobody ever helped her. She got freaking pissed, found her own healing, found Dr. Gary Forsman, who I was telling you about
yes.
and anyway, I got to introduce, she's gonna love you.
There are so many other synchronicities too. I've literally thought of like so many people. I keep thinking like, and I'll say this to you too, Tara, while we're talking, because I mean this with all my heart and soul. I think for me too, I'm sure you might, I don't tell me if you've ever felt this way, but especially when I first brought my practice online, because I was not somebody who was super active on social media in my personal life. There were times I'd think, is anybody out there? Like, am I the only practitioner feeling this way? So it's
Yeah.
so important to me I feel like it's time for us to form a tribe,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
So I just want to say that to you because I really mean that with all my heart and soul, and I feel very connected to you. And I think it's time for us to unite. And
Oh, same.
I'm
I
thinking of
have
Jane, who has the podcast Carpe Diem, and she's a holistic health entrepreneur, and just so many amazing women. We could do great things and
Oh yeah, I have so many
help
people to
so
connect you
many
with.
women.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what we just honestly need more caring. It's like, all right, we're like care tribe. That's what we call us. We're the Care Bears.
Oh my God, it's not a coincidence you said that, because can I tell you, I almost wish I could show you right now. When I was little, I was obsessed with the Care Bears. My mom said
Not a shocker.
when I first learned how to walk, my mom said they would literally take me to the toy store and I would like at 3 years old, like disappear. And I'd come like down the aisle with a Care Bear box that was bigger than me, like carrying it up to like toward the cash register. But you know what? Now
I
as a
was the same girl.
now as a grown up, and I still have some Care Bears. I'm not going to lie. But, now
That.
grown up, I realized, Tara, you know why we loved Care Bears? Because that's what they were all about, was caring and
Yeah.
love and
Yeah.
sharing. And I think
Yep.
even as kids, that's that you and I just, our beings just resonated
Yeah.
with pure love,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, girl, I'm so glad we
Care
got to
Bear
meet. I'm like,
time.
well, next flight to Pittsburgh. Like, I got a new friend.
Please come see me. Where are you?
I'm in Salt Lake City in Utah. So if you
That's
ever
right.
want to
I saw your
come,
gorgeous pictures on your stories this morning.
it's
Oh,
so pretty here.
I'm
It's like 20 minutes away. You are in an epic movie scene that you feel like you traveled for like 10 hours on a flight. Like, it's unreal. It's really
my
beautiful here.
fiance and I have been wanting to come to Utah, so we'd love to see you.
Yeah, yeah, please do. I have plenty of
I would.
bedrooms. You're welcome to stay with me and like hike like crazy and talk all the spiritual sciencey things. But okay, real quick before we end. So is it just one-on-one clients? What do you offer
That's a
in
great
terms of helping
question.
people?
So I do work with clients one-on-one most closely. I do also have an online holistic healing course. So that's a
Okay.
great option for people who want to start to think about, who are anywhere in their journey, whether you're just kind of looking to cultivate a holistic
Yeah.
lifestyle or you're really struggling with some health issues and you want a holistic approach. It's a really nice option. And actually
What's
later
it
this
called?
year, it's called Survive to Thrive, The Path to Chronic Wellness.
Okay, great.
And it's really great. And later this year, I'm actually going to lead a group through this course for the
Okay.
first time. I'm really excited about that. So there will be ways to work with me more collectively in a group format.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
people will love that. I will put links to it in all the show notes, guys, on YouTube and the audio options. And that also courses like that can be a really great resource because then you have this permanent thing.
Yes.
If you hear something down the road, you're like, wait, what did Dr. Rogers say about that?
Exactly. And like all my one-on-one clients, I give access to the course for life. So that's because,
That's cool.
then as curricular updates happen down the road,
Very cool.
that's most important to me too, Tara. I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, I don't want my clients to need me forever. So
No.
my goal is to build them a holistic healing toolbox that they can take for the rest of their
Yeah.
lives.
Absolutely. Amazing. And then your website URL?
Is healthytransformationswithheart.com.
Okay, guys. Check it out. Thank you so much. My mind is already like, what events can I get her speaking on? Like, who can I connect her to? Like, thank you for just showing up, like who you really are and the caring and your own personal crap that you had to go through too was obviously for a reason.
It was.
Thank you
It
for
really was.
enduring all of it and just bringing so much caring and love and realness and intelligence and awesomeness to this space. It was so awesome to meet you.
Oh, I love and adore you, and I can't wait to stay connected and do more great things with you.
Likewise.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Inside Out Health Podcast. I hope this episode served as inspiration and something that you needed to hear in your life. If you have a friend or family member that you think would benefit from this episode, please share it with them. And also, please subscribe. I have so many more amazing guests coming. I have just been so gifted and honored to meet so many incredible health professionals in my career, and I cannot wait to share their messages with you guys. So please subscribe. And if you could be so kind as to rate my show, I would really appreciate it. This podcast is honestly an intuitive call to me to help spread goodness to the world. And so if you guys can help me do that, I would really appreciate it. If you want more info on this guest, pop over to my website, check out my podcast section, and you can get links to everything we talked about in the show and find out more about this guest and where you can go from here. Make sure you're also following me on Instagram. That is my most active platform. You can find me at Coach Tara Garrison. You can also find me on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. Everything is Coach Tara Garrison across the board. And then, if you want to send me a message, guys, and let me know other guests or other topics you want to hear on the show, please let me know. I am here to serve you. So I would love to hear from you, would love your feedback on the show. And if you share any of these episodes, please tag me on social media. It's Coach Tara Garrison.